Hey guys, Nazli here, and today we're back from a YouTube video. Today we have Killua Zoldyck from Hunter x Hunter versus Sasuke Uchila from Naruto Part 1. If you enjoyed this video, dislike and subscribe. We're going to be using like base and their transformed versions for this. So for Killua that'd be like Godspeed, and for Sasuke that would be like the curse mark seal and things like that. And yeah, let's just get right into it. For strength attack potency, base Killua should roughly scale to base Gon, seeing that, you know, they both roughly scale to each other, and they've both been able to take out Chimera Ant officers with close to no difficulty. And Gon was capable of punching said Chimera Ant officer across several countries, which would therefore calculate out to around 123 kilotons of TNT, which would be a large town level. Even if you don't think, for some reason, the base Killua would scale to base Gon, at least Godspeed would. So yeah, Killua is on that level. For Sasuke, meanwhile, his fireball jutsu is able to vaporize like a small like crater in the ground, and vaporization feats are actually quite powerful because, you know, heat isn't, you know, destructive, or at least that destructive in any way. So this would therefore then calculate to around 18 tons of TNT, which would be city block level. And with like the curse mark seal, he was able to match Chibi4's Naruto. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but essentially Naruto was able to stop Orochimaru's snake, which would, because of like how massive and how powerful the snake is, to stop that you would need to force around 3.4 kilotons of TNT, which is around small town level, and Cursework Seal 2 is like a 10 times increase on that, so that'd be around 34 kilotons of TNT, also being town level. But despite that, Killua would have the power advantage, even in base compared to Cursemark Seal 2. In terms of speed, and this one's a little bit more complicated to scale, because you could, if you were to scale Gon and Killua and base to Morel, but since, you know, Gon was going to one-shot Morel, Morel was able to fight Cheeto, who was able to move across a very short distance, or very long distance in a very short amount of time. Whether like Morel scales to Cheeto's speed is kind of up in the air, since he did, you know, beat Cheeto in his own game, and has fought people who are self-proclaimed more powerful than Cheeto. It is kind of unknown, but I'd say it's highly likely that therefore base Sasuke and base Gon then scale to Cheeto in terms of speed. And as we said, he was able to move a long distance in a short amount of time, therefore calculating out to over 400,000 miles per hour. And while using Godspeed, Killua amps his like speed with lightning, which alone travels at 270,000 miles per hour. And then of course add that on to the already established speed, and you would get around 700,000 miles per hour. Sasuke meanwhile is comparable to Rock Lee without weights on, who is able to fight and react to Gaara, who is fast enough to catch an explosion, or rather block it, which would travel at around 20,000 miles per hour. And with his lightning manipulation, that should go up to what the lightning speed is, which is 270,000 miles per hour. But even with that, you know, Kid Sasuke would more than likely be slower than Killua. The Curse Mark Seal 2 is only really stated to give him a 10 times increase in power. If you apply that to the speed of lightning, then yeah, he would be faster than Godspeed Killua, but there's nothing really to suggest that it does. We know that he is faster, but, you know, to say that it's 10 times is a little bit jumping the gun, so yeah, I'd give the speed point here to Killua. For durability, the way the Nen works is that like how powerful your attack potency is should roughly scale to your durability as well. This is also shown when one of the Chimera Ant officers or soldiers say to farts in Killua's face, causing an explosion, which would be around small town level, and Killua reacted as if, you know, so like he just reacted in a really pissed off manner rather than, you know, actually in pain. So yeah, Killua's durability would scale to his attack potency there. For Sasuke Uchila, his durability should also scale to his attack potency, seeing that he's able to take hits from Naruto and Chibi Enforce Naruto. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So Killua again would have the durability point here also. For abilities, weaponry, and techniques, Killua's signature technique or signature ability is being able to manipulate lightning and enhance his speed with it. He has like kind of instantaneous movement, like his body can react on its own. He can create after images, and this creates a minimal like illusion creation. He can also sharpen like his hands to become claws to slice through things. He has body control since he can also dislocate his limbs on command. He's a master in hand-to-hand combat. He's quite acrobatic. Also, he can like read people's power just by looking at them. He has knowledge of people's pressure points and how to strike them. He has mastery over weapons and stealth. He has resistance to electricity and toxic manipulation or just poison. He also can seal his presence with Zenzu, meaning he can't be sensed. He has transmutation as he's able to turn his aura into electricity. He can absorb electricity to make him stronger. He has advanced development as like he's able to progress at a much higher rate than a normal person would. He has low regeneration, and it's not really combat applicable, but like for example, he was able to recover from a serious life-threatening injury in just like a couple of days. He also has perception manipulation, fear manipulation. He can paralyze people in place and kind of stun them with his electricity as well. He can sense where people are even if they're hiding, and he has his two 50-kilogram yo-yos which he can use as, weapons. As for Sasuke, meanwhile, he can walk on walls, create duplicates of himself, scale buildings, or just scale walls in general. He's also quite acrobatic himself, has fire and lightning manipulation. And with the fire manipulation, he can breathe it from his mouth. He also has explosion manipulation with like the explosion tags. He has transmutation. He can amplify his stats just by going into Curse Mark Seal 2. He can fly with the Curse Mark Seal 2. He can shapeshift. He can paralyze people in place. He has limited X-ray vision and enhanced sight. Power mimicry. He can tell his opponent's power with the Sharingan. He's good at predicting his opponent's next move. He has resistance to illusion and perception manipulation. He also has his paper bombs and shurikens also. So for who's more versatile, that is kind of up in the air, but I'd argue that Kid Sasuke is more versatile than Killua, seeing that some of the things that Killua could do, Sasuke could also do himself, and also just has a lot more to work with. For who has the better abilities, that's even more close. Seeing that, being able to read people's powers, both of them have that. Both of them can manipulate lightning. But I'd probably argue that it is Sasuke. I know, Killua's best ability is being able to just, manipulate and transmutate lightning and use his body control. And, well, yeah, Sasuke doesn't really have the body control thing. He does have, fire, explosion, so on, different types of abilities. So I would argue that Kid Sasuke is the abilities and versatility point here. As for weaknesses, and the only real one that Killua has is his Godspeed isn't, permanent. He will run out of electricity, and when that happens, he won't be able to use Godspeed. However, he can always just absorb more so that, he can continue to use it. Apart from that, when he, after he removed the needle from his head that came from Illumi, he didn't really have, that weakness of running away when the opponent was too strong. So, yeah, the only real weakness is the electricity one. As for Sasuke, his only real weakness is he's a little bit too overconfident and easy to manipulate. So for who has the worst weakness, overall I would say that it's Killua, but in the context of this fight we'll get to in the conclusion why it's not really that big. So yeah, for now I'm just going to say that Killua is, more vulnerable than Kid Sasuke. Now for the conclusion, we've gathered from this that Killua is more powerful, faster and more durable. Meanwhile, Kid Sasuke has the better abilities, is more versatile and is less vulnerable. So who wins the fight? Well, going by this, there's a few things that both of them have that wouldn't work on the other. For example, the afterimage creation and the perception manipulation from Killua would not affect Kid Sasuke whatsoever. But then again, the lightning manipulation that Kid Sasuke has would only power up Killua and keep his Godspeed amp running longer. So for who I think would win the fight, Kid Sasuke's array of abilities could keep Killua on his toes, but he can't really take out Killua, seeing that his durability exceeds Kid Sasuke's attack potency. So realistically, Killua would just more likely speed blitz Kid Sasuke. Yeah, it'd be a close fight, but Killua would roughly have this in the bag. He would be able to do it with not really no problem, but little difficulty. Seeing Kid Sasuke, even if Killua gets a hold of one of Kid Sasuke's weapons, he could even use that to the best of his ability. And yeah, just in general, Killua would beat Kid Sasuke. If you enjoy this fight, dislike and subscribe. I'm not entirely decided on what the next video is going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be Doom Guy versus Doomsday, but you know, I will just see you next week.